Hello, I'm Prosecuting Attorney Dan Satterberg. Each year our office files more than 7,000 felony cases, and in many of these cases there is a story of hurt and loss and suffering. You know, as I look back over the last 25 years in this office, a few cases stand out where victims and the community have suffered extraordinary and horrific loss. One such case involves Leo Milkin, who was serving his country overseas, fighting in the Iraq War when his young family was attacked in a peaceful neighborhood in Kirkland. This year, a jury convicted a Kirkland man of stabbing the soldier's family to death and burning down their home. It was a death penalty case, and Senior Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Scott O'Toole led the prosecution in the case of State versus Connor Schierman.
Upon the convictions for premeditated murder in the first degree with an aggravating circumstance as charged in counts 1, 2, 3, and 4, the defendant shall be and hereby is sentenced to death.
Connor Schierman is sentenced to death for the brutal murders of a Kirkland family in 2006. The bodies of 28-year-old Olga Milkin, her sons, 5-year-old Justin and 3-year-old Andrew, along with her 24-year-old sister, Lyubov Botvina, were all found in the Milkin home. They'd been stabbed to death. Prosecutors say Schierman set the house on fire after the murders to cover them up.
He drove to, as you know, the nearby gas station, the AM/PM, and he purchased 2 gas cans. He filled those gas cans with gasoline, and then he returned to that home. He went inside and he poured that gasoline throughout the home. He poured it in the daylight basement, he poured it on the main floor, and he poured it throughout the upstairs, including on the bodies themselves. And then he set everything on fire.
Schierman admits setting the fire, but denies committing the murders. He claims he woke in the victim's home covered in blood following an alcoholic blackout.
Even if I knew for certain that during my allocation, all I had to say to save my life was, I know what happened, and I'm sorry. I wouldn't have said it. I wouldn't have said it because it's not true. I don't know what happened.
Schierman had moved into a small duplex across the street from the Milkin family just 3 weeks before the killings. Leo Milkin was away, deployed in Iraq as an Army National Guardsman. Prosecutors say Schierman planned the murders.
He was wearing gloves, he was carrying a flashlight, and he was fully armed with these.
His claim that he was in an alcohol-induced blackout was absolutely refuted by everybody who was with him that night, including people who were his friends and his roommate. His roommate said no, there was no sign of any drinking. His sister, who lived next door and who saw him that night, said there was no sign of any drinking. A friend who lived next door said there was no sign of any drinking. I think it became a convenient excuse in a case of overwhelming evidence.
After a 3-month trial, the jury unanimously found Connor Schierman guilty.
I'm very relieved that justice has been served, that what my family went through hasn't been forgotten or somehow minimized.
The conviction comes after almost 4 years of pretrial hearings and court proceedings. The case files contain thousands of documents. 3 different crime labs were used to validate the accuracy of DNA evidence.
It's daunting. It's the resources that are necessary because you want the jurors to be comfortable with the decision they make.
More than 3,000 citizens were summoned to seat a jury of 12 that could sit through the long, grueling trial.
I thank each and every one for the decisions they made. I know it was very hard for them because they had to be away from work and family and not be able to communicate and talk about what's going on and hold all that inside. It was very hard for them, but I was very glad.
Schierman's death sentence will automatically be appealed before the state Supreme Court. a process that prosecutors admit could take years. But those close to the case believe the death sentence will be upheld.
Absolutely. He killed 4 people for no reason, defenseless people. I think it's appropriate.
Now, the defendant will be held accountable, not in the middle of the night in a Kirkland neighborhood, not in a darkened home where no one can see him, where he can terrorize others not as strong as he is. He will be held accountable under the bright lights of a court of law.
There's a footnote to this case, but it's not about the legal system. It's about the compassion of a community and the resilience of the human spirit. The Milkin home that was destroyed has been rebuilt, thanks to many neighbors, friends, and volunteers. And after 4 years of paying a mortgage on an empty house, Leo Milkin was able to move back home.
I want to honor Olga for how she remodeled this house when I was away. With 2 kids and working full-time, that house, that's a testament to how energetic she is, how smart she is, how efficient she is, she's just an amazing woman. I never heard any woman being able to do that. I'm very proud of her, so I just want to complete this house for her.
What a remarkable man. You know, sometimes when we deal with the worst of human behavior, we also get a glimpse of the best. I'm Dan Satterberg.